A country-sized elephant just ghosted after preaching the good word of Joy Boy. It's been 7 days, so is Queen still flying? Is he still en route to where Nick Fury is somewhere in space? Momonosuke gets charged with assault of a very naughty nature. And the Kingu fanboys are really taking full advantage of June, and of course, bounties are on the horizon. So there's a lot to get to in this chapter. But first and foremost, if you've not seen my full live stream, live reaction to the chapter, link in the box below to my Requiem and my twitch.tv channel, links in the box below where you can see the full live stream reaction. That's numero uno. Numero dos is that if you don't know, now you know. For this chapter review, we structure very nicely into 3 main parts: the structure and the pacing, the character components of the chapter, and finally the story progression components of this chapter. So let's get right into it, step by step and piece by piece. First, the pacing of the chapter. For this chapter, we have a total of 8 parts. Number 1 is the Holy Land area with the Gorosei in conjunction with the World Government ships nearby Wano country. Number 2 is Onigashima with Hawkins and Drake. Number 3 is a 7-day time skip forward and the Flower Capital section. Number 4, Paradise Farm. Number 5 is the Eternal Graves of Ringo. Number 6 is the main castle area of the Flower Capital, where actually most of the chapter is focused on. Number 7 is the Tokage Port area. And finally, number 8, of course, obviously, is the skies over the oceans around Wano country. Those are the 8 parts for this chapter. Overall, I think that the pace is actually pretty solid. The sudden 7-day time skip forward is slightly, only slightly off-putting, especially when we have no idea what happened to Kaido or Big Mom or the rest of these pirates or Big Mom's crew that was waiting on standby. I do assume that later on in the story, Oda will show us various flashbacks on what happened during this time frame, what happened to Kaido, Big Mom, and the Beast Pirates, so on and so forth. So I'm not really too worried about it, honest to God. So outside of just the sheer number of parts for this chapter, I really have no issues at all with this chapter in terms of the pacing and the chapter structure. So that is overall the pace and the chapter structure for this chapter. Now we have the character components for this chapter. And number 1 for character is actually Momonosuke. So Momo continuously gets better as a character, even now, even at the end stage of Wano country. So Momo's decision to keep the borders of Wano closed was a bold move, considering how he did read Odin's journal and knows a lot about what should be happening in the future, but he decides to keep it closed, which actually winds up being a very wise decision, despite his age, mental age of 8 years old. According to the Gorosei, it is now impossible for a large force to occupy Wano country. This does show, without a doubt, Momonosuke's natural leadership skills, and part of the reason why in the future he will be remembered as the quote great shogun of Wano country that the last chapter alluded to. In chapter 972, during the Hour of Legends, Oden stated that the Kozuki clan during the Void Century had actually closed off the borders of Wano country to protect the country from an external powerful force. And I've said it before, and here it is being brought to the forefront again, where Momonosuke's insight is actually very similar to these clan members ages ago. And again, mentally, he's still only 8 years old. Once again, natural leadership skills and decision making. And then after that, we have Momonosuke physically. Hiri drop kicks him and Nami punches him, but it doesn't hurt, which of course is a gag, but it's noted to time and time again where he doesn't get hurt. So the gag does have a serious undertone where Momonosuke's body is really, really well developed and very strong naturally. So even though Momonosuke, when we see him before at the age of 8, does not seem to be special physically, now he is, and it does make a degree of sense here because Oden was an absolute monster when he was born, when he was very young. So, and that's putting things mildly, honestly, because before the age of 1, recall, 960, before the age of 1, it is stated that he had the physical power to throw his wet nurse to the ground. And then at the age of 4, he could take a boulder, hurl the boulder at a bear, and kill the bear. So Momo's superhuman attributes were there the entire time, but they were delayed, let's say, compared to Oden, but they were still there nonetheless. And in a way, it does also now finally verify the reason why Momonosuke had erotic tendencies even at the age of 8, both physically and mentally. Because Oden, when he was 6 years old, was visiting the pleasure halls. Again, chat at the age of 6. That's scary. So all this just confirms in more ways than one that Momonosuke physically is also like his father. And now that he's a grown man, he has also lost a lot of privileges that Sanji and Brook are very, very quick to bring up. Absolutely. So that is character part number 1. Number 2 is Basil Hawkins. Hawkins seems to express regret for joining Kaido, and I think admiration for Kid and Killer fighting Kaido, never giving up on defeating him. Even if he did foresee Kid and Killer actually beating Kaido, Hawkins himself kind of thought that he was beyond the point of no return and felt like he couldn't return how things were in the past. That is what I have gathered from Hawkins. And Hawkins has passed away. I'm gonna say allegedly he has passed away, because I need more from Oda to actually verify if Hawkins actually died in this chapter. Now, after Hawkins is number 3 for character, Monkey D. Luffy. And in this case, it's Luffy through Joy Boy. So the people of the country make a parallel of Joy Boy to the God of the Blade, Ryoma. So even though there are parallels here between Ryoma and Zoro, Luffy has them too. Just like how I was saying this for a minute now, the main parallel between Oden isn't Zoro, it's actually Luffy. Monkey D. Luffy. There are some parallels there with Oden and Zoro, true, but it's mainly Luffy. And here it also applies to Luffy as well with the sword god Ryoma. Because not only did Luffy beat Kaido, which matches up to the original lore of Ryoma killing the dragon back then, but also in the Wanted one-shot, in the Monsters chapter, folks have noted to, I think in particular Grand Line Review noted to, how Ryoma acts more like Luffy than he does Zoro. So I looked into it, and Ryoma does actually act more like Luffy than he would Zoro. And as far as I remember, Oda did say that the Ryoma in the Wanted one-shot is the same Ryoma in the lore and the legend of the One Piece story. It's the same dude. So it's actually a very intriguing play on Oda's part to actually do that. Give Luffy and Ryoma those parallels. And it does make sense. It really does. Now, after Luffy is, of course, Yamato. So Yamato, as a sort of prayer for Luffy and Zoro's recovery, did not eat or bathe for 7 days. It's a part of the way of the samurai, if you would, the Bushido code. And Momonosuke showed the same thing in Punk Hazard, and we see Yamato experience that herself in 1024 when she sees the daimyo around her not eat and bathe, of course, because they're in a cave, for several days on end. So in a way, it's actually her showing her growth firsthand from that time, since at that point in time, she was wondering if she could be a samurai despite her getting hungry. But of course, samurai don't get hungry. Shows their strong willpower. So Yamato starving herself, in a way, shows her way of the samurai as Oden, and an appreciation for those time and currently for folks like Luffy and the Strat crew, which she will soon, without a doubt, be a part of. After Yamato, real quick, Killer and Beppo and some random kid pirate guy, they like the Frankie Shogun. Robot fans. Lovely. And then, finally, of course, Ryokugyu, aka Green Bull. Most folks, I think, at least in the West, call him Green Bull. Because, like, for example, I think most of us say Fujitora rather than Purple Tiger, because it kind of rolls off the tongue better. Fujitora. But not many folks say Ryokugyu, because it kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit worse than Green Bull does. So either way, Ryokugyu, aka Green Bull, he is here. So basically, Ryokugyu has some sort of plant-based different ability, which allows him so far to fly using a flower petal as a helicopter propeller. So pulling out his inner Sasaki, that helicopter nonsense, and he is en route. So there are 3 options right now that I've seen when it comes to his ability. Number 1 is a plant-based paramecia, obviously. Number 2 is an earth-based Logia, or like a forest-based Logia. And number 3 would be a mythical Zoan forest god. In particular, it would be the Hito no Mi mythical model forest god. Something like that. I heard about that from the tier 3 guys, and I've seen some tweets here or there on Twitter about this idea of another Hito no Mi mythical model. Because the idea actually comes from Skypiea chapter 287, which for me, I didn't put much credence into it outside of Luffy, because there is a secondary chapter in the Big Mom flashback where they mention a sun god, but no rain god, no earth god, or forest god. But because in Skypiea they mentioned a rain god, a earth god, and a forest god, folks know there's actually 3 other guys that are human mythical model Zoans that are based after gods. And Ryokugyu will be one of them as the forest god. Something like that. Is that likely? No. But is it possible? Yes, it is possible. And now finally, we have the last component for this chapter review, which is the story component of this chapter. So number 1, Caesar Clown is still on Whole Cake Island, never escaped since chapter 872, and is now spotted by Reiju. So here's my thing real quick. I think in the future, Mads could come back. And Caesar Clown being spotted by Reiju, I think could mean that in order to escape, he's going to be under Germa custody for a bit. Which means that him and Judge, even though they don't like each other, ideally, working together again. Hold on though. Where's Queen? There could easily be a side story in the future, let's say in Elbaf, where Queen is somewhere, and Queen also winds up somehow, some way, in Germa's clutches. That's my take on that one, but either way, Caesar Clown is the first major step, I think, for Mads reuniting in full force. Now, next here is this, the Gorosei. Very important here. The Gorosei know that Kaido and Big Mom were, quote, defeated. In particular, Big Mom, big, huge quotes defeated. And the Nika has come back in full force. The incident is, according to them, way too big to cover up, of course, obviously, to Yonko defeated. But what's even more curious than that, I think, is the timing. Apparently, the timing of Kaido's defeat and Big Mom's defeat is, quote, couldn't be worse, quoting the Viz translation. Why? Why is the timing of this so bad? Now, we know that there are some crazy outside events, like for example, of course, Sabo, SSG, Warlord Wars, but for me personally, I think it all involves Blackbeard. You see, part of the reason why I think that Luffy's bounty can't be in the 5 billions, it could be, but I don't think it's going to be, is because Blackbeard right now is only at 2.2 some odd bill. I think that in order to maintain that underdog motif, Luffy's bounty has to be, just by default, lower than Blackbeard's bounty. So Blackbeard has to do something very crazy to get a higher bounty in the future, like in the 4 or 5 bills, and then Luffy is not allowed to be in the 3, maybe even 4 billions. Because if Luffy is 5 billion plus at this point in time, after beating Kaido and so on, then Blackbeard's gotta be like in the 6 or 7 bill. Which, maybe, but I have my doubts. And if there's gonna be an event, I think, that is going to raise his bounty so high, I think it's actually going to be something involving an ancient weapon. That's correct. The Marines were going after something. I think it involves Alabasta in a big way because of ancient weapon Pluton, which also ties to Cobra, who probably passed away. And we do kind of see this actually in episode 957, that great episode, where we do see in the anime people of Alabasta actually crying for some reason. So Blackbeard may have gotten a huge bounty raise because this man has an ancient weapon, and we're not aware of that just yet. That's my take. Okay? Now, after that is Zunisha. Zunisha has left the area by slipping away into the mist. Hard Florian Triangle vibes. Massive. But what's also important is that Gandhi Gorosei notes to how Zunisha leaving is a sign that they are not going to open the borders of Wano country. This confirms the idea that Zunisha is the key to opening the borders of Wano country. But how do the Gorosei know this? That sounds like some really deep Void Century lore. How do they know this? My guess here, of course, is Emu. Emu is their Google. They plug it into Emu, they get an answer just like that. That's my guess here. Now, after this, of course, Basil Hawkins, quote, passes away. That's actually a big deal somewhat, honestly, because he is a supernova. He will be the first of the worst generation to die. So this might mean that in the future, other supernovas can pass away as well. But for the time being, he is the first supernova to pass away, allegedly. And this also means that his ability, the straw ability, has come back to market. Uh-oh. And Wano country may have a particular fruit where the soul of the ability wants to inhabit that fruit in Wano country. That'd be very intriguing if someone in Wano country actually picks up Hawkins' Delphi power. Very interesting. After that, of course, we have a 7-day jump in the story, and the folks of Wano country are adjusting to their new life without Orochi, Beast Pirates, Kaido, and so on and so forth. So fresh food, clean water, and of course, re-education. Very important. Later in the day, they are going to have the feast to celebrate their freedom in earnest. And the legend of Joy Boy will spread far and wide throughout the entire Wano country and be solidified along with the legend of the sword god Ryoma. After that, my personal favorite part of this chapter is the confirmation of death. Ashura Doji and Izo confirmed dead. Very good. Very good. That's what I'm talking right there, Oda. Good stuff. Oh yeah. I'll get to it real soon in great detail, my thoughts. But that, I think, is a good step in the story progression for this chapter. Finally, Luffy is awake and Zoro's alive. Congratulations. Apu leaked the events to Morgan's, and now the news is spread across the world, and their bounties have already come out, and now Green Bull's arriving. So, let's get into right now my thoughts and my overall chapter rating. I think, without a doubt, this chapter is a strong chapter this week. Very funny moments, great hype, and setup for the next chapter through bounties. Where's Robin, of course, because Robin hasn't been seen. So that to me means poneglyphs, lore, let's get it done. And of course, Green Bull incoming. But because of the past 7 days being skipped, I do wonder, once again, where is Big Mom and her pirate crew that are on standby? Where are the Beast Pirates right now? Is there a chance, maybe, that some of the Beast Pirate members, like Page One or Ulti or Sasaki, are actually serving prison time in Udon? Maybe. That's possible. Is Udon even still active? No idea. Obviously, I am questioning Hawkins' death, duh, and that leads to something low-key that caught my attention in this chapter, and that is about Marco the Phoenix. Marco, in this chapter, says this, noting to Izo's death, and here I am, still kicking for some reason. Now, we know that Weevil has had issues with Whitebeard and his crew, of course, and we have no idea where he is at the moment, but maybe Marco versus Weevil, this situation could still happen in the future. And if Weevil is that kind of dude, Marco might just pass away. Maybe. But for me, though, once again, I really am relieved to see two scabbards die. For me, this is actually so important because these two scabbards dying actually raises my evaluation of the whole battle on Onigashima. Yes, the whole, I'm not capping, unironically, my whole evaluation of this war on Onigashima, therefore the arc as a whole, is now elevated because these two scabbards die. Correctamundo. Absolutely. So, this chapter rating is an 8.5 out of 10.